Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. That's why you need Shopify. They'll help you create a convenient, unified command center for whatever your business throws at you, whether you sell online, in-store, or both. You can sell the way you want, attract the customers you need, and keep them coming back. Turn those what-ifs into why-nots with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer. That's shopify.com/special offer.
What if buying a new appliance felt like a win for your home and your wallet? Save up to 50% plus up to an extra $600 on select major appliances at the Best Buy Appliances Labor Day sale. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, folks. This is the More Money Show. Thanks so much for joining. What a week. These weeks have been unbelievable with the news stories that are coming out on the economy, on politics. We're going to cover it all on the More Money Show. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate so many of the notes I get from people, so many of the emails. And when I run across people just on the streets of New York and people saying they listen to the More Money Show, it means the world to me. So thank you so much. We have great ratings. Thank you to John Katsimatidis, who is one of the sponsors of the show. And so let's get right into it. There's so much to cover. We have some great guests coming up later in the show. I want to start with this big story about what is happening with respect to Lisa Cook. She, of course, is the member of the Federal Reserve Board who is now alleged, and I'm going to capitalize that word, alleged to have committed mortgage fraud. And the question is whether she should stay on the Federal Reserve Board. I believe that everyone in this country is innocent until proven guilty. That is one of our major rights as an American. But the case against her looks very strong. And the latest development in this is that she has been, now the FBA has launched a formal investigation into the alleged mortgage fraud. Now, here is why this is important. And I'm sick and tired of people like Elizabeth Warren and Paul Krugman and others saying, oh, this is just a minor infraction and this should not disqualify her to be on the Federal Reserve Board. It absolutely should. If she did this, again, if she did this, then she cannot be on the Federal Reserve Board. And here is why, folks, because this is an important story. If someone commits mortgage fraud and she is alleged to have falsely claimed that this was going to, another house was going to be her principal residency, that is mortgage fraud. And that is the kind of fraud that many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people committed during the huge housing crisis of 2006 and 2007 and 2008. And this is what torpedoed the economy and wrecked so many of our major financial institutions. It led to massive losses for American families. And mortgage fraud was at the center of the scandal. Now we have someone on the Federal Reserve Board who is guilty of that crime? No. They cannot continue to be on the Federal Reserve Board. I think Trump is right to call for her resignation. And let's get somebody on the Federal Reserve Board who is honest and trustworthy and is someone that is squeaky clean. Now, the other issue I wanted to bring up, and we'll talk a lot about these throughout the show, is this case against Google. The Justice Department went after Google for building a better mousetrap, and they alleged that they engaged in monopoly behavior. And the decision that came down by the federal judge was kind of a win for Google. It basically said you can keep Chrome, which is their browser, which, by the way, they bought, they developed it, they built it. Why should they have to sell it off? And luckily, the court said, no, you don't have to sell it off. But they did fine Google. They did come down against Google on some of these other monopolistic claims. And I'm here to tell you this is bad news. They're saying now that Google has to share its technology, its data with other rival firms. That's not America. This isn't kindergarten. This is not kindergarten. We had to share the blanket. Google built this. They were one of the most successful companies in the history of civilization. I know a lot of my conservative friends don't like Google because they believe that Google has discriminated against conservatives. And in some cases they have, although I have to say I've been working with Google a lot over the last 5 years. I think they've really improved their behavior. And I think that the bias against conservatives has finally been alleviated, maybe not entirely. But the point is, a private company should not have to turn over its private property. If we believe in free enterprise and private property and innovation, then this cannot stand. Now, I'm going to take a radical position here, and I know a lot of you, my listeners, will probably disagree with me, but some of you may agree with me on this. I think we should repeal the Sherman Antitrust Act, which passed, I think, back in 1912 or something around then. That act of alleging that American businesses are involved in monopoly behavior is crazy. They went after Standard Oil. They went after AT&T. They went after Ford. They went after all of our major companies, and their crime was to be a success. And in every single case where the FTC or the Justice Department has gone after an American company. Remember, they went after IBM. They went after Microsoft. What they do is they see a company that has become profitable, that is providing a service that the American people and people around the world want, and then they try to destroy it. That's the opposite of our free enterprise system. Of course, a company tries to beat its competition. It's like saying, that the New England Patriots, when they went, almost undefeated, that we have to break them up because they're too powerful. Winning is not a crime. Providing a service that people want is not a crime. And so I say, get rid of the Sherman Antitrust Act. The only people would be hurt by that, by getting rid of the Sherman Antitrust Act. The only people would be hurt, the lawyers, because the only people who make money on antitrust are lawyers. How much money did Google have to spend to defend itself? Tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars defending itself against this rapacious lawsuit against them. And of course, the government had to hire an army of lawyers to go after Google. That was paid for by you and me, the taxpayer. So lawyers made, hundreds of millions of dollars, and no consumers was left better off. I'm going to make one last point about this for you all to think about. And you can tell me if you think I'm wrong about this, because I want to hear back from you folks. But in every single instance, okay, they said Rockefeller, Standard Oil was a monopolist. No. The oil price fell every year that John D. Rockefeller created the oil industry. What about the railroads? Were there monopolies? No, they reduced the cost of transportation. What about AT&T? No, telecommunications costs fell. What about Google? No, how can Google be a monopoly? How can it be hurting consumers when it gives you their search engine for free? Google doesn't cost you anything, and they're saying Google is anti-consumer. I could go on and on with this. What about Apple? Apple has driven down the cost of iPhones. They used to cost $3,000. Now you can get an iPhone, depending on which model you get, for $300. So the price keeps falling and falling and falling. None of this is anti-consumer. We want great companies. We should not have our Justice Department suing our own companies. This is only benefiting China and the Europeans and other countries that are trying to take away our supremacy. By the way, we all own Google. We all own Apple. We all own Amazon. We all own NVIDIA. At least I do. They are part of our retirement plans. They are great American companies. They're highly profitable. I would agree with Donald Trump, who said, let's not tear down our great technology companies. Let's build them up and continue to be dominant in the world. It's the best way to beat China. It's the best way to beat our enemies, whether it's Iran, whether it's the other countries in the Middle East that are trying to kill us. If we are dominant economically, we win. Okay, so that's my message. Get rid of the Sherman Antitrust Act. That's my message today. We're going to be right back, folks. We got a full jam show. Stick with us. It's the More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for tuning in. The reason this radio station and this radio show our success is people like you. So I very much appreciate you joining. I have a weekend and get ready for football. You ready for some football? Because it starts this weekend. Let's get to it. I've got like 4 or 5 things I want to discuss with you, and I want you to think about, and I want to hear what you think about, because they are tough issues that sometimes divide us as conservatives, if you are a conservative, as I am. And I'm just going to go right through these. First of all, what do you make of the fact that Donald Trump lost in court on his tariffs? The court said that he does not have, this is a federal judge says that he does not have the authority to unilaterally impose tariffs. And I have to say, folks, I'm torn on this one. That's why I could go either way on this one. And I'm going to lay out both sides of the case, and you let me know what you think. And because it's going to be a big case. I think Trump said the other day it's going to be one of the most important Supreme Court cases in modern times. I think he's right about that. And it's a case about how much power we give to the executive branch and to the president. And I love this president, but I do believe in the importance of checks and balances in our system, which is something that preserves and protects our freedoms as Americans. And so what is going on here is that the Constitution is pretty clear, I would say concretely clear, on the power given to the president when it comes to taxation. So the Constitution, as I read it, says that all tax bills must begin in the House of Representatives, and a tax must pass Congress. In other words, the president does not have a unilateral authority to impose a tax. At least that's the way I read the Constitution. The question is whether the Congress, which has the taxation power, and by the way, tariffs, whether you like tariffs or don't like tariffs are taxes. A tariff is a tax on the things that you buy. And it's, some of that cost is imposed on the consumer, some of it is imposed on the manufacturer, but it is a tax. And so the issue is whether Congress had the authority to delegate taxation power to the president. In other words, they deferred to the president and they said, we are going to delegate this power that rests with us to the president. And at issue here is whether Congress has the authority to do that. I'm very torn on this. And if anything, I think that I do not think Congress should have that power. And if you think I'm being unreasonable here, if you're a Republican and a conservative, as I am, imagine if Kamala Harris had been elected president, God forbid, and she said, well, we have a climate crisis, so we're going to have to, triple our energy costs so we can save the planet. She said, I have an emergency power to do that. Well, conservatives like me would be shouting from the rafters, no, that's illegal. That's unconstitutional. You can't do that. You can't just unilaterally impose taxes on the American people. And so, but yet Trump says, I have the power to, because of an emergency, and it may well be an emergency, that the president can impose the tariffs. So you can see there's 2 sides to this. I'm kind of weighing on the side that the president should not have this authority, but I respect people with different opinions. I'm still trying to make up my mind on it, and we will see. I am not convinced, by the way, that the president will win in the Supreme Court, even though there is a conservative majority. We will see. We'll follow that court case very closely because we'll have huge ramifications on the executive branch power. The next thing I wanted to mention to you, and I mentioned this last week, but I want to repeat it. We have a new study at Unleashed Prosperity. It's a blockbuster study, and it shows that Trump's economic policies work. And what we showed in this study is that if you look at the income gains that were made by Americans with Trump's first term as president, so he was president from 2017 through 2020, and you compare his income gains for median income families with what happened under Biden, the average family gained $6,500. That's a median family, people in the exact middle under Biden, but under Trump, but they only gained about $600 in income under Biden. In other words, 10 times greater income gains for the middle class. I'm not talking about Warren Buffett. I'm not talking about Bill Gates. I'm not talking about, the LeBron James of the world. I'm talking about middle class people at a $6,500 gain. Plus, that was pre-tax. Don't forget the average family also got about a $2,000 tax cut on their income. So they saved about $8,000 and they gained $8,000 under Trump. Those are huge numbers. Here's another amazing statistic. If you look at the 4 years that Trump was president, you had a $6,500 increase in incomes for the middle class. If you look at the 8 years that Obama was president, 8 years from 2009 to 2016, and then you look at the 4 years that Biden was president from 2021 to 2024, and you add the income gains over those entire 12 years, those gains were slightly smaller over 12 years than what Trump gave us in 4 years. So Trump's policies help the middle class. I'm sick and tired of people saying Trump only cares about rich people. It is not true. The middle class and even low income people saw big gains under Trump. Final point I want to make. You're following this issue about whether Trump can bring in federal troops into the cities and so on, and I'm a little uneasy about it. I do agree that he did the right thing in Washington, D.C., because it's our federal city. Should he bring in the troops in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago? I'm not so sure that makes sense. I'm a little uneasy about it. I know people have different opinions, but we do know that bringing in those federal troops into Washington, D.C., it did cut crime, folks. It did cut down on the muggings and the shootings and the rapes and the armed robberies and all of these things. So it did make Washington, D.C. safer. Thank you, Donald Trump, for doing that. It's a question of whether he can do it in cities that are not our federal city. Shouldn't the states be responsible for that? I believe in states' rights, so I think probably true. Now, the issue here that is interesting is Democrats are saying, why are you only bringing in the federal troops in blue states and not red states? And because there are a number of cities in red states like Memphis and St. Louis and Houston that have high crime rates. And so they're saying, see, it's not just a red state, blue state thing. It's just, the size of the city and so on. And here's what I want to tell you folks, and this is important. It is true. There are a lot of red states with cities that have high crime rates. That is true. There's a high crime rate in Birmingham, Alabama. There's as I just said, there's a high crime rate in St. Louis. Memphis is one of the highest crime areas in the country, and it is in Tennessee, which is a deep red state. Here's my point. It's not a red state, blue state thing. It's a red city, blue city thing. In other words, crime is high in any city that has a lot of Democrats and a lot of liberals running their city. New York is run by Democrats. Los Angeles is run by Democrats. Birmingham, Alabama is running by Democrats. Memphis is run by Democrats. Houston is run by Democrats. You don't find too many cities in America, big cities, where you have Republican leadership. You do have some. And by the way, I'm not a rah-rah Republican. The point I'm making is when progressive liberals take over an area, whether it's Chicago, whether it's Los Angeles, whether it's Philadelphia, they destroy the city. That's just what they do. That's what progressives do. Now, I know I'm going to get some pushback on that, but the fact is crime rates are much lower in cities that are run by Republicans and cities with Republican residency rather than Democratic residency. Maybe that's because Democrats are poor. I don't know the reason. I think it's because Democrats tend to be soft on crime. You've got Johnson in Chicago who won't even, it's all these root causes and it's because we have racism that we have crime. No, it isn't. It's because you won't get the criminals off the street. Brandon Johnson, get the criminals off the streets and prosecute them, and you'll bring crime down. It's not complicated. This is what Rudy Giuliani did in New York when he was mayor. And I know, Rudy is no saint, but he did reduce crime dramatically, and he rebuilt the city. And don't forget, when you have high crime in an area, you drive businesses out, you drive employers out, you drive upper income families out, and all you're left is poverty and joblessness and welfare and crime. And so fighting crime is a way to stimulate the economy. And that is what Republican governors and Republican mayors do, not so much Democrats. So Democrats, if you want to help your city, fight crime and put the criminals in jail. That is my take on this stuff, folks. This is the More Money Show. We will be right back. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Now we get to our economics and politics section of the show, and I have two of the best in the business. David Malpass, the former president of the World Bank, a former member of the Treasury Department under Donald Trump in his first term, and one of the smartest guys I know about what is happening in capital markets and with the economy around the country. And Joel Griffith, who is with Advancing America Freedom, one of the senior policy analysts there. Gentlemen, thank you for joining. David, I think a lot of our listeners are concerned about the direction of the economy. Some of the economic signals are pointing north, and some of them seem to be pointing south. Can you kind of where do you stand on this? I read in the Wall Street Journal that a lot of economists are worried about a recession. Should we be worried?
Hi, Steve. So growth is going to be important going forward, and there is some slowdown now, though I think more what's going on is rapid change within the economy. And so that's hard for economists to pick up on. You've got the big change in the taxes where the new bill makes permanent the advantages in the tax code on expensing, and that is kicking in. You've also got and so improvements in the energy sector and electricity, which are going to be so important across the board. The electricity grid has to be upgraded. So all of that work is in front of us, and I think it's moving along. But right now, the jobs number will, reflect the change going on in the economy.
Yes. Yep. And so, are you? What is your just general advice to investors who are getting nervous? And you see, by the way, in some of these surveys, David, consumers are getting a little worried about the economy.
Consumers are under pressure because the interest rates are high, and they're looking at the change going on and have some worries about the future. I think they're also, though, looking at the opportunities. When you look at artificial intelligence, for example, that's going to begin improving lots of people's jobs because some of the grunt work can be moved into more human sectors. People look at it and say, well, I'm worried that I'm going to lose my job to technology. Historically, people gain jobs from technology. So I think that will take time, and it's big change, positive change going on.
So, Joel Griffith, what do you think in terms of the health of the economy right now? Should people be nervous? Should they be worried about their jobs? We're seeing a little bit of slowdown in the labor market, but what is your take?
Yeah, I'm quite concerned with economic growth going forward. We just had, of course, the second quarter economic numbers come in, and those appear decent on the surface. But if you look at the overall growth over the first half of the year, we're right around 1.4%. That's a market slowdown from last year, and we shouldn't be too surprised by that. The tariffs are beginning to have an impact, not just on consumers with prices now heating up, but it's also having a big impact on businesses as well. It's put in place a lot of uncertainty. If you look at gross private direct investment, that actually dipped by 15% last quarter, and that's not annualized. That's a one-quarter significant dip. And look, the one big beautiful bill certainly was a major achievement for President Trump and conservatives in Congress in terms of immediate expensing for businesses. But if you're a small business and you need a new piece of machinery, and that's, say, $1 million, the tariff impact of that can easily be $300,000 on that piece of equipment, and that completely that actually outweighs the tax advantage of being able to immediately expense it. So there are some troubling signs. The two on the jobs market, we saw manufacturing jobs decline by about 20,000 over the first half of the year, and the number of job openings is roughly equivalent now to the number of people unemployed, and that's the lowest that ratio has been in over a decade. So there's some troubling signs, and I'm hopeful the administration gets back to focusing on deregulation, continuing to open up the energy markets, and hopefully the recent court decision on the tariffs will give the administration cover to drop those tariffs in the near future.
So, David, I think Joel makes some important points. You know, we're seeing kind of conflicting directions from the Trump administration. On the one hand, you know, that you guys are both right that the tax bill has been an enormous stimulus for the economy and the savings from deregulation and energy production. On the other hand, Joel is right. I'm hearing from a lot of middle-sized manufacturers, David, that their costs are really rising, that they're having problems with their supply chains because of some of these tariffs on things like aluminum, copper, steel, and so on. So how do you unsort all these things?
I'll mention several things that are important into the future, because a lot of people think about it. What have you done for me lately? So,
right.
Don't look back. Look forward. One would be if there's another tax bill. I think the capital gains tax rate is too high.
Yes.
One is on crypto. So we haven't seen the benefits yet within the payment system. I think the Federal Reserve has to be more on top of that and create an enabling environment for crypto dominance for the U.S. dollar. And there's been some legislation on that. I think more is needed. Financial regulatory policy is really important. I work every day with companies that are smaller businesses that look for working capital. That means the loans, the loans that companies need to hold more inventory, more accounts receivable to buy a machine, and those are just too expensive right now. So I think going forward, if the Federal Reserve can wake up a little bit and there can be lower rates and that can help defend the dollar and make the U.S. attractive, that all will help.
So one of the big issues that by the way, that was David Malpass, former president of the World Bank and a former high-level official in the Treasury Department under Donald Trump's first term. So one of the issues that is a big question mark, of course, in the economy right now is what is going to happen with the tariffs because of the federal judge's ruling basically saying that these tariffs are invalid. It now goes to potential. It looks like it's going to the Supreme Court. I agree with Trump that this is going to be a momentous decision by the Supreme Court. I know neither of you are necessarily lawyers, but I'm on the fence on this one about which way that the court should decide. David, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts about this upcoming decision about whether the Congress can delegate this taxing authority to the president?
I would rephrase the question there, Steve. If the IEPA authority, which is the one that was ruled on Friday, is not upheld, then the administration will use other trade authorities. So I think it's pretty clear from a directional standpoint that the U.S. is intent on bringing manufacturing back home, and that means changing in the trade environment. So I don't know the legal answer for what the Supreme Court will do, but I think the imperative of changing the trade direction is going to be there regardless.
Yeah. So, Joel, this is going to be a big court decision. I find myself, my own opinion is that I'm not a big fan of tariffs, but I do like these trade deals that Trump has engineered, and he's going to lose that leverage if he loses the Supreme Court case. But what is your take on this?
I'm not currently practicing law, but I was a lawyer in my past.
That's true.
But really, this comes down to basic constitutional law. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 gives Congress the exclusive ability to, quote, lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. I believe this is a slam dunk case. It was a 7-4 decision the other day in the Court of Appeals. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think this is going to be either 7-8 or 9-0 decision in the Supreme Court. This should be a clear-cut case. And not only has Congress not delegated to the president the power to levy these tariffs under IEPA. IEPA doesn't even mention tariff power. Congress does not have the constitutional power to delegate that role, that responsibility. This is an exclusive power to the United States Congress. They could not delegate it to the president even if they try to. This is a basic separation of powers issue. And as concerned as I am about the economic impacts of the tariffs, and I think these are severe, I'm even more concerned about the separation of powers. Look, if the president has the power to declare a national emergency of some sort in order to levy tariffs on coffee from Brazil or automobiles from Germany, a future president of the left could say, hey, it's a national climate emergency. And we know they were talking about this during the Biden-Harris administration, talking about a national climate emergency. Imagine a future president AOC or Elizabeth Warren declaring a climate emergency and putting in place 100% tariff on gas-powered automobiles, or 200% tariff for that matter. So I think it's important to get this right.
So, David, you mentioned the fact that Trump has struck some pretty important trade deals so far. I like what he got with Europe. I like what he's gotten with Canada. I mean, his goal is to try to bring the tariffs that are imposed on the United States down. So if I understand you correctly, you think that even if Trump loses this case, that he will still be able to move forward with this trade agenda? Or what is your take on that?
I don't want to presuppose the outcome of the Supreme Court.
I don't know either. Right.
The Congress has delegated quite a bit to the president to take care of the economy in this area. So that's the Section 232, which is the national security but part of the law, the Section 301, which is clearly applicable to some of the trade deals and partners that the U.S. is working working with within the trade deals. So my point is simply that I think it's a clear goal of the U.S. to have more manufacturing. That goes into the tax bill and the expensing of equipment and of some facilities.
Yep.
So these are important positive changes going on for the U.S. They'd be helped, I think, by the interest rates. The interest rates in the U.S. are way higher than in Europe and Japan, and it doesn't make sense given the health of the economy. So I think there can be lower interest rates as part of this and still comply very much with this high priority on affordability, on the Fed's dual mandate, price stability and full employment. Those can all be met. They're not being met now.
So that leads, and by the way, I think this discussion has been a good one because it shows the kind of conflicting views that people have on this important court decision that's coming up. But I want to change direction a little bit and head to where what you were just talking about, David. You are an expert on the Federal Reserve Board. You could very easily be on the Federal Reserve Board in sometime in the next 6 months. Trump is going to have a couple of new openings, it looks like, or maybe even the chairman. You'd certainly be one of the people I would trust having control of our monetary policy. What if you were the Fed chairman right now, David, and you had this big meeting that's coming up in a week or two? What would you be advocating right now in terms of interest rate policy and Fed policy?
Steve, I don't want to go with the preface of if you were, but because I don't expect that, and well,
I know you're on the short list, David, so I'm not going to write you off. But anyway, go ahead.
The importance for the U.S., I think, is to find a way that the dollar can be the reserve currency for a long time and recognize that if you do that, then you get lower inflation, you get affordability, and you meet the price stability. And you can do that by defending the dollar. So that should be explicit. The Fed, oddly, never
hold on, David. Hold on.
Yeah,
because you're just
too many.
Hold on. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here. When you say defending the dollar, what exactly does that mean?
That means the dollar 10 years, 30 years, 50 years from now will hold its value so that people can, with confidence, own U.S. bonds. Right now, they're worried that won't be the case, so they charge a higher yield for U.S. bonds. That can be fixed, I think, overnight by stating the intention to create price stability by having the dollar hold value.
I think that's a great idea. I love that. And I think you're right. That would save the U.S. Treasury probably hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions, of borrowing costs. So it's fantastic
I think
idea.
Over 10 years, it'd be in the trillions, maybe.
Wow. Okay, Joel, what do you think?
Well, I agree. Preserving the value of the dollar should be utmost important. And it's important to remember that over the first half of this year, the U.S. dollar lost 13% of its value relative to other currencies. This is the steepest first half of the year decline since 1973. And unfortunately, one of the folks that is on the short list to be on the Federal Reserve Board is an economics advisor to the administration, Stephen Moran, who has been on the record calling for a weaker dollar.
Right.
So I think it's important that we put in place the right person on the board who understands the value of the dollar, not just because we want to be able to travel abroad and have our dollar stretched, but having our dollar strong means that we're able to get better deals on the goods that we're buying from our trading partners. Yep. And it also means that we're able to have lower interest rates on the federal debt, which at $32 trillion plus, we can't afford these rates to be going up to 5-6%, which is what they're approaching right now.
So that is Joel Griffin, who is hold on just one sec. Joel Griffin with Defending American Freedom. And can you respond to what Joel just said, David, in terms of, we've only got about a minute and a half left, but I like the direction you're going in, David. I think Trump should take your advice and pick someone to head the Fed that will defend the dollar.
I wanted to come to quarrel with Joel. So Steve Moran, I think, is well qualified and has made very clear that there's a lot to economics, and that gets you straight into the trade importance and the long-term manufacturing. So I don't think it's fair to have shorthand for people. It's this entirety of wanting growth, that we want median income. That means real wages to be going up. And economics has been mixed up on that. So I guess my parting thought is we need to be re-examining economics to make it work better for people around the country, and Trump is doing that.
Well, it's a great point, David. And, our new study shows that in the first term, Trump increased real median income by $6,500. And if you include the $2,000 tax cut per family, it was an $8,000 increase. And so far this year, it's already up $1,000 per family. So Trump is, I think, really focused on that. What I've learned from you two gentlemen, we want a strong, stable dollar. We want as much free trade as we can get. We want deregulation. We want to promote American energy, and we love the tax cut. And the reason I have you guys on is because I agree with you. So thanks so much. That's, of course, the great Joel Griffin and the great David Malpass. Thanks, guys, and we'll be right back. This is The More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is The More Money Show. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful first weekend of professional football. Starts on Sunday. So U.S. Open is on Sunday. What a great weekend this is for sports, and I love sports. I wanted to mention in the close of this hour that there's an interesting study done. As most of you who are regular listeners to the More Money Show, and thanks again for joining, you know that I am obsessing about low birth rates in America. I think it's a big problem. We need young people to get married. We need to have them be fertile and multiply. That's what keeps the human species going. Everybody talks about endangered species. Human beings are going to be an endangered species unless young people start having more babies. Used to be in my parents' generation, I'm one of 5 kids. Now couples barely have 2 kids. You rarely see couples with 4 or 5 kids anymore. You do have that. So my point is, kids, young people are having too few kids. And now here's an interesting twist on this. There's a new study that has come out that shows in the United States and in developed countries, if you're self-identified as conservatives, you're likely to have 2 to 3 more kids than if you self-identify as a progressive. That's interesting, isn't it? In other words, progressives are not being fruitful and multiplying, but conservatives are. So conservatives on average have 2.5 kids, and progressives on average have 1 kid. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad. Maybe progressives are the ones who are going to become an endangered species. It's also true, by the way, even in the developing countries, where the average woman who is a progressive has 2 kids, but the average who is a conservative has 3. So my point is, for some reason, progressives don't want to have children. They don't want to get married. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the whole gay rights thing, that maybe they're concerned about their gender. But we as conservatives have to outnumber them by continuing to have babies, okay? So I know most of the people listening to this show are probably in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s, but tell your kids, come on, get out there, start having kids. Making babies is fun, right? And it also makes the economy wholesome and productive and profitable. Okay, folks, so that's my message today. Let's start having more babies in America, because they're the greatest asset of all, the human being and Americans. And we lead the world, so we need more Americans. Okay? See ya. This is The More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore.
Stephen Moore is with us, economist.
With more than 30 years experience as an economist and as a leading thinker of government on business, showing deep understanding of the shifts in the global economy. He's leading economist Steve Moore with More Money. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
The cavalry is coming for you, Chicago. Federal troops, ICE officers, Homeland Security, we're going to straighten out that situation. You guys couldn't. President Trump is. It's called Shapocalypse Now. President Trump on Truth Social just posted an hour ago a picture of him, like the Robert Duvall character in Apocalypse Now. Remember that movie? Charlie, don't surf. Remember that? He's the commander of the Air Brigade, and he's running around. He's obsessed with surfing. And you may remember this line from the movie. President Trump just kind of used it in his little Truth Social. I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. This is true. I love it. I just want to do that line real quick. You don't have an excuse too often to do this line. By the way, this is Greg Kelly in for Stephen Moore. That superstar economist was on Bill Maher last night. He was fantastic. I'll play some highlights. He was terrific. And we'll do some, some economic stuff. That's what you guys like at this time, right? With Steve Moore. I'm not an economist, leading or otherwise, but Steve is, and I got some little tidbits of his that I think he wants to share with you. But he really was terrific on Bill Maher last night. I'm usually here, when is my shift? 12 to 3 p.m. 12:20 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And you can see a special video service that I do, roughly 9 p.m. weeknights. But do me a favor, Robert Duvall, marching around that battlefield in 1979, at least, when this movie came out. It's supposed to be 1969. Hit it, please.
You smell it? Napalm, son. Nothing else in the world smells like that. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. You know, one time we had a hail bomb, For 12 hours, when it was all over, I walked up. We didn't find one of them, not one stinking big body. Smell, you know that gasoline smell? The whole hill. Smells like victory.
And by the way, this movie's totally...
Someday this war's gonna end.
That actually is a very good line. It's even better than the smell of napalm in the morning. You know, when you go fight a war, when you're a professional soldier or Marine, believe it or not, you kind of want to fight a war. And if a war is happening and you're not in it, I mean, anybody who was in America in the Marine Corps during the invasion of Iraq, like, was kind of feeling their career slip away. The war went on for a long time, so it didn't really matter. But you got to be in the war if you're in the military. And there's, if you want to make a career of it, if you want to be a general, how can you miss the big war? And we need people like this. We need people who like war a little bit. I know we don't ever want to fight a war, but you need some people around who actually like to fight it, who are good at it. I don't want psychopaths in there, but Robert Duvall, an iconic performance in a not so hot movie, actually. I think they were on mescaline when they made that thing. Stephen Moore points out that the August jobs report is a mess. One survey shows 22,000 new jobs. The other shows 288,000. Add that to nearly 500,000 downward revisions from the original reports. The Bureau of Labor Statistics data is broken. The Senate must confirm real E.J. Antoni for accurate numbers. Remember, he had this whole problem with the lady from the Biden administration, always playing with the books, cooking the books. You see it in the private sector. You definitely see it in the public sector. They don't have to worry about the bottom line. They can do hocus pocus, whatever they want to do to make Trump look bad, to make Democrats look good. All right. Let's do what the guy usually does. We have to give him a lot of credit. Stephen Moore, who's advised President Trump on all things economic. President Trump calls him all the time, wants the latest numbers, wants his interpretation on the numbers, on and on and on. Very tight with Trump. And last night he did very well on the Bill Maher show. Let's go ahead and listen to some of those clips I pulled together, okay? Go ahead.
But I also believe, Bill, that the reason there's been a bit of a backlash against vaccines is because the government was forcing people to take vaccines.
Correct.
And that is something I'm against.
And also not putting any stock in natural immunity.
Yep.
Even if you had the disease, you still had to get the vaccine, and also giving it to 2-year-olds who would never outrageous.
Yes.
So there was stuff to be done.
Well, Bill Maher is now the voice of reason. Some of us who, were complaining about that while it was happening, right? Bill Maher said it, wow, isn't that great? He's really coming around. Well, he's doing it when it's safe. I like Bill Maher. He's very clever. He's intriguing. But he gets a little bit too much credit for... even Bill Maher is saying, where was he 4 years ago when this really counted? Right? When they were coming for us. Right? When they wanted to cancel us. When they wanted to tarnish our entire movement, who we are. Stephen Moore also had a little conversation about some other topics. I want to go through those too. It's going on the Bill Maher show. I don't know what it is. Everybody drops everything to go on the Bill Maher show. Conservative, Democrat, liberal, Republican, everybody wants to be on that show. I don't, me, not so much. It's just, you got to fly out to the West Coast. You can't do it remote. You got to sit right next to Bill. Is it worth it? I don't know. To go on HBO Max, 2 Max, whatever the hell it is now. But good for him. It is an accomplishment. Go ahead.
He turned India. India was supposed to be the counterweight to China. China is not our friend. Okay?
That's for sure.
But there's only 2 countries with 1 billion plus people. Yeah. And the other one was India. And they were on our side. And suddenly, we've got 50... He just turned around. I remember him holding hands with Modi.
Yeah.
Holding hands.
Right.
Well, that's Geesh holding hands with Modi. Now Modi's holding hands with the other guy.
But this is the question we've asked his trade people who are in there now, including Peter Navarro, that you know, Steve, which is they're sanctioning India because of their buying and importing Russian oil. China's doing way more than that, and they have not been tariffed for bringing in Russian oil, and they're bringing in way more than India is. And I think that is why Modi and the Indians have had such a falling out with the White House over that discrepancy. They're being punished for something that someone else is also doing who's not being punished for that.
There's no question China is the new evil empire. There's no question about it. I think Trump's strategy is to try to unify the world against China and to isolate them.
But he's not. He's doing the opposite. He's uniting them against us.
Hey, wait a second. Where the hell's the... Steve Moore comes back and kicks his ass. Give me the next clip. I think we got like 3 more. Go ahead.
But I also believe, Bill, that the reason there's been a bit of a backlash against vaccines is
we heard
because
this one.
was
We heard this one.
people to take vaccines.
Give me the other one. Give me another one, please.
On the rain delay at yesterday's football game. Oh, don't get me started.
I can't believe it. Football should be played in the rain.
I agree. This is safetyism. This is a part of the health discussion we were having, I think, that everybody has to be safe completely at all times. Football, that's the great thing about football. We play it whenever, wherever. There's no stopping it. And the crowd, there could be lightning. Of course, it's rain. There always could be lightning. They stop the game for an hour.
Subject, can I tell you what else I hate? No more building dome stadiums. Football should be played outside.
Yes, I agree.
Well, baseball. Yeah, look, I'm a Chicagoan. We played in Wrigley Field and Soldier Field when it's 10 degrees below zero, Bill.
I don't know about that one. When it's like Alabama in August and September and kickoff, it's hot.
But what about, canceling the game for an hour because there could be lightning? I heard that now. Please get to safety. Get to safety. Like a meteor was heading for the stadium. What a bullshit.
Uh-oh. There was the curse word. So this was, I guess, the Eagles-Dallas game that they rain delayed. I'm going to take a pass on it altogether. All football. You heard me do this, right? I'm surprised at the reaction. Widespread reaction. A lot of football fan websites attacking me. Well, knock yourselves out wasting your time on football this season, right? Watching these guys make money, exercise, while you sit there, gain weight, drink beer, probably bet. A lot of people are betting. One time I wondered, why do people get so into the sports? Why is it? And somebody answered the question because everyone's betting on these games. Oh, that actually explains it. I got my lesson a long time ago when it came to professional sports. I was whacked out about the Yankees, right? I knew every player, all that stuff. I'd watch games. I'd watch unimportant games. I'd watch every game. And I would cry when my freaking Yankees lost. That's how hardcore I was. Granted, I was a little bit too old to be doing that. What was I, 13, 12, something like that? And I remember my dad saw my reaction once to when the Yankees lost, and he gave me one good talking to. These guys don't care about your problems. They don't even live here. You're rooting for the clothes. They come and go. And he told me the story about how Chris Chambliss, who was my hero growing up, actually, and he was going out. What did he play? First base? Chris Chambliss, and he was trying to catch a ball. And the guy, how do you know that, Jonas? You're 20 years old.
Rich told me.
You remember what Rich told you about Chris Chambliss?
Well, no, he just literally answered.
Oh, like right now? There. Oh, okay. Phew. Otherwise, I got this savant here. All right. So anyway, he was going to catch a foul ball, and some kid was trying to catch the ball, and the kid disrupted Chris Chambliss, and Chris Chambliss goes to him and says, "Thanks a lot, punk." And everybody starts booing the kid and throwing stuff at him, and they kicked him out of the stadium. And I'm like, I could have been that kid. I would have just excitedly got up for the ball. God, boy, maybe I shouldn't do this so much. Maybe I shouldn't always go with the underdog. But some of these underdogs, even when they're not nice underdogs, you see what happened at the Phillies game? I don't know who the hell they were playing, but somebody hits a home run, ball's in the stands, and there's a little scuffle for the ball. And now they're blowing up on the internet. The woman, the ball was like at her feet. And some guy comes, grabs the ball, and goes 20 feet away or so and gives it to his kid. And then the lady, whose ball, it was like kind of sitting at her seat, the ball came right to her feet, goes over there and starts yelling at the guy, "Hey, that was my ball." And the camera watches all of this, and everybody takes out their cell phone cameras. And at that point, they're saying what a bitch she is because she's yelling and screaming about a baseball. And I don't know. Man, she's wearing a Phillies shirt. The guy is wearing a Phillies shirt. The kid looks like he's about 11 years old. The dad gives him the ball, and she starts yelling, and he's yelling, kind of arguing back, but not that forcefully. And finally, he just takes the ball from his son and gives it to her. Like, bye-bye, fine, there you go. Everybody starts booing her, and there was this like major effort to find out who this woman is. I'm surprised they haven't figured it out yet. Maybe they have. But here it goes. I'm going to have to stick up for her a little bit. Yeah, just a little. I'm sorry. I mean, they're going to find out who she is. They're going to contact her employer. Her employer is going to put out some sort of statement. She's going to be shamed, all right? She's going to be cyberbullied globally for this one moment in time. Have you acted like a perfect gentleman every moment of every day of your life? Have you ever made a mistake? I've made a billion mistakes. There are things to this day I still think of that happened in like 1989 that I'm still embarrassed by. You know, oh man, why did I say that? Why did I do that? I mean, I can't, and I can be mortified even if no one in the world even noticed, even if no one is remembering. Now, this person, and I don't know if she's like entirely in the wrong either. The ball was at her feet. Somebody who wasn't sitting in her section grabs the ball. Now, I expect there to be a bit of a scrum, right? That used to be really intense. People pushing, screaming, yelling over a foul ball. Now, this was a home run, but it wasn't like it was somebody's, 400th home run or something like that. It was a home run. No big deal. The ball is probably worth what the ball is worth, $1.50. I don't think a random home run in the middle of the season by the fourth place Phillies. Are they in fourth place? Who knows?
They're first in their division.
Ooh, first in their division. Well, everybody basically gets to the playoffs these days with the wild card, right? It's just the craziest system. And Vinny, I don't really want to know the facts, to be honest. All right? It's just, it's too easy to get into the playoffs, in my opinion, especially the wild card. And it's just a mess. Baseball is a mess. Ever since they reorganized in the mid-'90s after the strike or whatever, it just is a mess. So this lady, are we going to cyberbully her forever? Well, have they found out who she is? I don't know if she's wrong. And also the first thing, I don't know if she knew, if it was clear to her, that the kid had the ball. It wasn't clear. She didn't necessarily see him do that. She thought he had the ball. Now, when are we going to are we done sticking up for women? Right? Are we done with that? You know, this is not something that happens every day either. You're at a ball game, which is an unusual environment, let's face it, right? You don't spend your life at a ball game. You got the lights, you got the field, you got all that stuff. You got the Jumbotron, you got the da-da-da-da-da, all that stuff. There's a lot of stimuli. So everyone's a little bit off their game a little bit, right, so to speak. And she makes this decision, and it's trending all day. The Phillies Karen. Let's see if they found out who she is yet. I think that by now they have to have her. Uh-oh. And now everyone's weighing in. Now they're also giving the dad a hard time. First it was the woman, then it was the dad. And they don't like the way he reacted because she comes up screaming and he kind of like throws up his arms like defensively. The dad is even more at fault than the Phillies Karen. If you stand up to them, they lose their power. He failed in front of his son. Never back down when it comes to your sons. Weak men create hard times. Wow. That's what somebody put on the... And then, oh, by the way, the Phillies gave him, like, everything. They gave him season passes. They gave him a baseball bat. They gave him a mug. They just gave him everything. Everyone's trying to make nice on this kid. Phillies star Harrison Bader saw the little kid lose his home run ball to a deranged Karen. He gave the boy his signed baseball bat. What a class act! What a class act! As we kick this woman while she's down. Like there's no possible way for her to learn a possible like lesson from this, for her to reflect on it. The shame, this campaign, this cyber campaign is so intense. Okay, let's see here. Uh-oh, yep. Phillies Karen fired from her job as school's administrator. Wait, did they fire her because of this? You got to be kidding me. Breaking. The Phillies Karen has been identified and fired from her job. I don't think that was a fireable offense. Maybe she was having a bad day. How can you get fired for that? Am I the only one? Wait. Yeah, some people are seeing it my way. It's entirely possible that the Phillies Karen may have had possession of the ball and the boy's dad grabbed it from her hand. I still think she's in the wrong. Kids always deserve the ball. You could say that. Let's see here. Did you guys see this on the TV? You see this? Or is only us social media folks?
No, I didn't watch the game personally, but I saw it happen after.
And what do you think? Just tell me. Oh, and by the way, everybody starts booing her. And you know what? I kind of like her spirit. You know what she does? She gets up and she gives everybody the great big finger. All right, enough of that for the time being. Eric Adams says he's staying in the race. Now, we are in a world of pain right now over this mayor's race. All right? It's a problem. It's a real problem. Most of this is Cuomo's fault. The psychopath was never good at politics, certainly not good at governing, has blood all over his hands, responsible for the deaths of countless elderly, older New Yorkers in that nursing home fiasco, so he could pretend that the numbers were better than they were, and he could look like a star, and everybody would say, oh, Andrew, you should be the president right now. Him and his silly girlfriend. You know, the lockdown was traumatic on a lot of people. It was a real pain in the neck. You couldn't work. You couldn't go out. You couldn't go to movie theaters. Everybody became a hermit. And the mask police and all that stuff. Andrew Cuomo was having the time of his life. He never had that level of fame. He never had that kind of attention. He never had that kind of approval rating, even though he was actually screwing up. Girls were throwing themselves at him, although he was taking liberties with some of these girls he shouldn't have been doing. And I think, just a mess. He's hounded from office. Hey, why did you quit? This is the second time he quit. He quit in 2002 when it looked like he was going to lose to Carl McCall. You know, you fight to the last drop. No, he just quit. He quit two weeks before the primary when it looks like it wasn't worth it. I'm going to lose, so I'm going to quit. I'm going to get impeached, so I'm going to quit. Why would you do that? Why? He's not cut out for this line of work. He's not a leader. That's the thing. He's tall and slim. And he lived in a mansion growing up. The governor's mansion. Not because of him, but because of Mario. Mario's success went to Andrew's head. And he goes and loses to Mamdani. An utterly beatable guy. A pro like a supposed pro like Andrew could not beat Mamdani. So you hear the rumor that they're trying to push Eric Adams out of the race. Don't even get me started on Curtis right now. I'm very disappointed in him. Oh gosh, him and the cats. Still think he could do it. I'm still going to vote for him, but I'm not impressed with this campaign. Where the hell are the TV commercials? Let's look at the TV. Anything? No. I'm going to start them next week, right in time for okay. It's always just around the corner. It's always, I got the match. What did Eric Adams say? You got that big chunk? I want to hear the big chunk. Apparently, this is a really good speech. I saw him last night at a phenomenal party. The WABC Foundation Gala. I was there. I sat next to Anthony Cumia, fascinating guy. I got to really speak to him at length for the first time. He's got a great show here on Sunday nights, as you know. Let's see. They had all kinds of great people. John and Margot put on a great party. Chad Lopez and Emily Pankow. They're just great team. I love them. I'm not, I think and I've learned a lot from them. Great party, great food. Cipriani, ooh, wow. What a venue. I don't do that well at parties, though. I get very overwhelmed. I get overstimulated. I don't know. I get a lot of incoming. It's a little bit of a strange feeling, although there were some nice people there. Are we ready with the Eric Adams? Go ahead.
To New Yorkers, I want to speak directly to you. There has been so much speculation, communications, announcements of what I'm doing, no matter what I've stated over and over again publicly. So I want to be clear with you. Andrew Cuomo is a snake and a liar.
You got it.
I'm in this race, and I'm the only one that can beat Mamdani. Andrew has had a career of pushing black candidates out of races. You've heard me say it over again. Carl McCall, Charlie King, David Patterson. This is his career that must stop with me. This city can't go backwards, New Yorkers. This is a city that I inherited where crime was out of control, COVID, no one wanted to be on our subway system. We watched what happened in housing. The reason people are having these conversations is because I made this city safe. I committed myself and dedicated myself to a city that I love. And I'm going to continue to do that. This polo shirt that I'm wearing that says Eric Adams, Mayor of the City of New York, I'm going to wear that for another 4 years. We can't go backwards. We can't have a city that's filled with encampments like I inherited. We can't have a city where crime and guns are on our streets like I inherited. We can't have a city where unemployment was high across the city, but specifically for black and brown communities like I inherited. While children were not getting a quality education.
All right, stop for a
like
second. I mean, talk about the race card, huh? You play whatever card you got right now, I guess. I'm told that he is getting out. And this is the kind of defiant speech you give just before you get out. Who knows? I don't know. I am surprised that he wasn't able to bounce back a little bit more. The polls have him dead last, although I'm suspicious of the polls. He's got a point about Andrew Cuomo. I mean, a real point. Did he call him a liar and a snake? Amen to that. So look, you never know, right? You never know. Here I am, right? I despise Eric Adams in a lot of ways, but then again, I love Eric Adams. That's my policy. I love everybody. I don't like everybody. I don't like them, but I love them, if that makes sense, in a godly way. But I would vastly prefer Eric over the crook. I mean, the communist. No, I like the crook over the communist. Eric just might be a crook. I can take a run-of-the-mill crook. I can't take a communist. We'll be right back, shall we? All right, is this about the time that Steve Moore does it? Steve, great job in California on the Bill Maher Show. That's where he is right now, making his way back. We'll be right back.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Wow. That Steve Moore guy sounds really smart and influential. He's not here today. He's it's me, Greg Kelly. He went on the Bill Maher Show last night, did a very, very, very good job. And Steve did a little bit of an hour, but then he couldn't do the whole show, but that's fine. All right. I'm at your service. By the way, well, let's take some calls. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Here's an item in the media. They're about to build a bridge between Tibet and Mongolia. It's going to cut 4 hours down from the trip for everybody who's going there. Took them 2 years to make the thing. What do they want with me? Axios is reporting, fake news, but now that it's safe, they'll tell these stories. Biden officials raise concerns about how Biden issued pardons and used that auto pen. There was a guy named Jeffrey Zients, Zeint's. One of these guys who goes in and out of government and somehow is worth $150 million. How does that work? I know somebody who was the chief of staff to the Secretary of Defense 20 years ago, and he lives in a $10 million house in Washington, D.C. You know what a $10 million house in New York is? $40 million. Talk about the swamp. I can't stand that place. It's just, President Trump has precious little time to fix it. You know, after those midterms, they're coming. That's one of the reasons why he never takes any time off. He knows that he's got maximum influence now, and that won't be there forever. But I likes what I'm seeing. Now, J.D. Vance is most likely going to be the president. There's almost no, what do you call it? There's like no suspense as to who this is going to be, right, on the Republican side. And if you see any talent in that Governor Newsom character, you know who sees talent in him? The swamp. Oh, wow, look at him. He's really he's beating Trump at his own game on X. He's beating Trump at Twitter. Are you kidding me? First of all, he's not, number one. He doesn't know. And also, Trump's Twitter game and social media, that was just it's kind of like a sideshow. Sometimes it was the show. But he had something of substance to actually talk about and point to. His career as a successful businessman where he hired thousands and thousands of people and made amazing properties all over the world and employed a lot of people. That's a big deal. What can Gavin talk about? Gavin can just point to San Francisco, what a wreck it is. California, how insanely broken it is. I was talking to a bunch of very smart politicos, and all of them were impressed, and they were saying, oh, boy, we were really wrong about Gavin Newsom. He has real talent. He has real potential and the Republicans better take notice. That's why Donald Trump called them the drive-by media, right? They have no memory. They have no knowledge. They have no curiosity. They just drive by, look out the window, and then they keep driving and they see something else. And they keep driving and they see something else. Every now and then they'll roll down the window and probably try to, throw some mud at people. But that's it. Anybody see the RFK hearings this week? He was great about vaccines and everything, but there is this woman who was standing behind him the entire time. And it wasn't Cheryl Hines. I'd like to know who that was, please. The other thing here we got was this. J.D. Vance says, killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. There is some backlash for taking out that drug cartel in the Caribbean Ocean, right? You saw that boat. They tried to get the boat to stop. We had ample intelligence telling us that the boat was full of narcotics on its way to America. I would call that a high-value target. We shoot a lot of things that don't seem to make much sense, right? We went into an entire country, invaded Iraq for nothing, weapons of mass destruction, and we stayed there. 20 years in Afghanistan, it is exactly the same as when we invaded. Whatever happened, those drugs are not making it to America. That was a success. That actually worked. And we should be happy about that. I am a little bit tired of these guys with the social media things, man. My goodness gracious. Just, what do you, members of Congress, you got it, your job is supposed to be a little bit boring. They're always posting jobs about, who they had dinner with, and look at me on the Air Force One, and look at me, and look at me, and look at me. What about looking at us? What about documenting the success of the people in your district or something like that? I'm sorry, but I'm going to use a bad word. So many of them, they're a bunch of whores. They really are. You know where I got that line? From that movie, The Verdict. Remember when Paul Newman confronts that woman, the key witness who doesn't want to testify? She's trying to find out where Mary Ann Kay, or whatever her name was. Now, what happened? The phone rang. What happened? You know what I'm talking about. You're pretty pushy, mister. You're a bunch of whores. All you care about is $1. You don't care who you hurt. You're a bunch of whores. Forgive me for saying that. What is it, Marty in St. Augustine? Hello.
We listen to your show every day. We love everything that you say. I totally agree with you. I was on the housing police from 1970 to 1990. And in 1993, they made the mistake of merging with NYPD. Eric Adams supposedly was on transit police. And the scuttlebutt that I heard was that he was hiding all the time, which a lot of people on my job did too. They rose to the ranks very fast. While I was out there fighting crime, I worked in Brownsville and East Harlem as a patrolman, and then I got promoted to sergeant, and I quit the job. I retired because the stress was getting me. And I say something, I found out that when I was on the job, the biggest enemy was your own job, because I related with the people in the community, and that was before the city gave them up. And the worst thing that the city ever did was merging, because when I worked the housing projects, don't believe what they say. There was a lot of crime, but I had the place in order. And then the city, I guess, to save money, what did they do? They just merged. Also, this guy, Mamdani, is a communist, and I can't believe that the people in the city would vote for somebody like him. But look.
All right, hold on a second. Hold on. Whoa. Your year is off. It wasn't 1993, because my dad was commissioner in 1993, and I know he did not merge the NYPD and the housing. I think that was a Bratton thing, and he did it later.
No, I thought it was 93. But
actually, in 1995, the NYCHA police was absorbed into the NYPD. The merger aimed to enhance public safety and housing developments by integrating. So no, that was 95. My dad left in early 94, so that was not him, and it was definitely 95. I know that. I remember him. I remember that there was a reason. I remember it was something that they did, and it was something that I think my dad may have agreed with you on that, although I don't want to speak to him. For him on that. Talked to him all the time. Saw him last night. Hey, wait. So you were 20 years on the job, and you get a pension for that, right?
I've been retired since 1990. I've been retired 35 years, getting half pay as a sergeant.
That's wow. So you retired. How old were you when you retired?
I retired. I was 44 years old.
Now, what did you do then? Did you pick up?
I retired and I moved to Florida too fast. I was in South Florida for 2 years, hated it. And then I meandered up to St. Augustine. I've been here ever since. It's hard to make money in Florida, but the thing is the quality of life. I'm in St. Johns County. It's a Republican county, Republican sheriff, and crime is almost non-existent. And I own my own house, and I get by. I do certain things. I'm living very comfortably from what I do.
Yeah, you're telling me, man. You worked for 20 years, 40 years ago, and you got it made. Good for you.
I also love that I have a friend who is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force, and I love that you are a military person. And I also love the way every once in a while you do a prayer. You're a very good Christian. We love you so much. We listen to you. And you know what I like about you? You remind me of when I was on a job. You don't give a damn. You don't take any nonsense from anybody, but you're always on the money.
Well, Marty, I try. Thank you. I try to be a good Christian. Believe me. Every now and then. But you're a great guy. Thank you. Very kind words. Hey, let me ask you something real quick. Do you know Joe DeGeneva? I think he lives in your town. Have you ever met him?
I never met him. He was federal or something?
Yeah, he's a prosecutor. He's look for him around town. He's a great guy, and you guys would have a lot to talk about. Marty,
I belong to the Republican Party, so if he comes to the meetings, we might meet him.
All right. Marty, thanks so much, man. Good to talk to you. And I got to talk to Mike now next. Mike in Comac, New York. Hello.
Greg, how are you?
Good. I got a note here. Go ahead.
Yep. No, regarding RFK and that woman that was in the background.
Yes.
Very cute, beautiful. I understand that's his daughter.
You sure about that?
You know what? Not 100%. I heard it from a talk show host late last night.
Maybe it is. Actually, come to think of it, he has a daughter who's a fashion model. And by the way, it's daughter. It's not, she's like 35, whoever this is, 30, 35. It's not like, so I think her name is, come to think of it, I might even know her name, Kiki or Kinky or Kick Kennedy, right? Kick. Look that up for me, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, will do.
All right, pal. That's a good little tip there. What's her name?
Nothing too. Kira, right?
Kit, K-I-T. Does that look like her? Send me a picture, okay? Not that I should care. I don't care. Hey, what do I care? Really? Send me that picture. I'll see you later, pal. Very good. Very good. You know what I did today? And if you want to get into shape, I got to tell you, I stopped drinking soda. I feel great. I stopped eating basically most sugar. I feel great. I'm going on walks every day. I feel great. I am losing weight. And this Make America Healthy Again thing, I am all in. I mean, I've been doing it. I was at that party last night. I didn't have dessert. I was good and hungry. I ate guilt-free. You know what I mean? I ate. Parties are a little bit tough for me, though, socially. And let me ask you something. What would you do if you're talking to a guy and he had very bad breath? So, first of all, I wonder, do I have bad breath? You know what I mean? What do I do? I actually had a cough drop in my pocket, and I gave it to him. He's like, look at me. I said, chew on that. He's like, what do you mean? Just, I kind of gave him a look like, oh, all right. Well, thank you. How bad? Oh, jeez, don't make a big deal out of it, all right? I was trying to be discreet here. Anyway, it does happen. But there are some fantastic people. Who did I meet? I met a Barbara, not the Barbara, another Barbara. I met Elise. I met a sex therapist who was at the party. I'm like, you're a no kid. Oh, Gilgo Beach murders probe leads detectives. Oh, shoot. We have a flash on the Gilgo Beach murders. Hold on. Gilgo Beach murders probe leads detectives to Jones Beach after disturbing discovery near Rex Hoyerman's former job. Police sources said the items were from the late 1980s and early 1990s. They were buried 2 feet deep. That's not very deep. For 35 years ago? All right. Detectives working the Gilgo Beach murders on Long Island visited Jones Beach after discovering disturbing evidence, including a bloody grave near where suspect Rex Hoyerman once worked. Less than 2 months after Hoyerman was arrested in July of 2023, in connection to the 3 of the 11 Gilgo Beach murders, workers 3 miles away at Jones Beach unearthed a cache of weather-beaten purses and women's and girls' clothing buried in the sand just outside the East Bathhouse. That's odd. The workers were cleaning the area and called police immediately. Police sources said the clothing was from the late 80s and early 90s. The items were buried 2 feet deep. The items included rayon mini skirts, shorts, pants, shirts, some with their buttons popped off, suggesting the clothing may have been torn off or forced open. Also found a blood-covered workman's glove and a mysterious leather strap hidden inside a shack still used by beach employees. Rex Hoyerman worked at Jones Beach during the summers of 81 through 84 when he was in his late teens. The East Bathhouse has been closed since 2009 and should reopen next summer. They're definitely taking this seriously given how close it is to Gilgo Beach. It could be a coincidence, though. All the items were collected by investigators for forensic testing. It was unclear if the results... Well, one thing we did not have back then is cell phones. And this guy was really big with the cell phones, you know? Richie, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, Greg. First of all, you're great with Curtis because he's auditioning to be Marlon Perkins. Remember Wild Kingdom? The 80-year-old guy would wrestle and jump on a lion. That's what he's going to be, Marlon Perkins. He's got to go out there and win this thing and say he wants to be the mayor and just tell everybody. But they got to spend money on commercials and all that stuff. I mean, I know you said you recommended people because I think he has the Pataki people working for him. That's why. And they want to spend all the matching funds and everything. But you are on the money with that. I was cheering you on when you interviewed Curtis yesterday. He wants to be Marlon Perkins. If people don't know who he is, he was a great show, Wild Kingdom, man. Oh, wow, 80-year-old guy fighting an anaconda. But this is not what we want right now. You know what I'm saying, Greggy? And you're the man. You are the man.
All right, Richie, I totally agree. Thank you very much. And you're right about that Perkins guy. That was a great show. Mutual of Omaha, right? Wasn't it Mutual of Omaha Wild Kingdom? And it came on right after Disney. I forgot. One or the other. Sunday nights.
It came on after, and it was good. We were kids watching it. We were little kids watching it, but we loved it. I mean, you didn't think about saying, "Oh, I'm going to watch Wild Kingdom," but when we had to get up and change the channel, we were 9 years old, and there was Merlin Perkins jumping on top of a cougar or something with a net.
I don't think wait. He didn't do any of that stuff. He just introduced the show. I don't think he actually did. He didn't do that.
No, Craigie, come on, I remember it. He would throw a net on a jaguar or a cougar, and they would. The younger guy did most of the work. The younger guy used to jump out of helicopters and wrestle elks. They would put the ID neck braces on them and everything. That show is a great show.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm looking at him right now. He's got a damned snake around his neck. All right. I kind of remembered him as, he did it from the library, like that Masterpiece Theater guy. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
he
right.
looked kind of like Alfred from Batman and Robin. But he's like 80 years old.
That's right.
But Craig, he was like 80 years old to win that. Come on, Curtis wants to be Merlin Perkins. He's got to be Rudy, and he's got to be your father. That has to be. He wins this thing.
I don't know. I hope it's possible. I hope he can. I don't know. Hey, look, there is a rumor that something really bad could happen to Mamdani legally, right? Something he may have been up to no good. You keep hearing this, all right? So let's see how that pans out. And then imagine this. It could be if Adams takes this job in Saudi Arabia or Turkey or wherever, it could come down to Curtis versus Cuomo. How about that? And then I think our choice is obvious. It already is. Thank you very much. We'll be right back. Thanks.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Yeah, Steve didn't make it into work today. It's become a real problem with this guy. Partying a little bit too hard, you know? Does that whole academic thing. I'm only joshing. Steve Moore was fighting the fake news yesterday, actually bonding with Bill Maher on Politically Incorrect, and he was fantastic. I played a bunch of clips earlier. Hey, everybody, New York. Oh, my gosh, look at the skies right now. Severe thunderstorm warning until 3:30 p.m. Additional alerts, severe... Now, wait a second. Is that the real thunder, or is that a little special effect button you got? Don't do that to me. That scared me for a second. I'm looking. It's bad enough outside. Look at that dark sky, and the rain is coming down pretty intensely. Now, heavy rain is expected to stop in about 16 minutes, and then it's going to start again about 15 minutes after that. It's going to rain for most of the evening, it looks like, all the way through at least 7 o'clock. New Jersey, you guys have a big problem over there, too. Severe thunderstorm warning. You know what? I take these severe thunderstorm warnings seriously. You know, you ever see how the flash flooding happens and on certainly the Jackie Robinson Parkway and all these little streets around our area, and it's just, ugh. And then the subways. Every time you see the footage of all the rain coming in, I think this is one of those occasions. It looks like an eclipse outside. And I didn't bring any rain gear. I got to be honest, I never really check the weather. You know, I just never. I'm oblivious to it most of the time, except right now. This is pretty intense. I think we're going to be okay. Phones going off like crazy. Stanford, Yonkers, the city, clobbered right now. Clobbered. What's this? Elizabeth, you guys got it bad. Old Bridge down there. Looks like there's a little clearing right over Newark. Hey, did you guys see that Cory Booker got engaged? Apparently, everyone's picking up that his, what do you call it? His engagement photo is a little bit too exuberant. Over-exuberant. He's laughing his ass off. He's getting engaged. Any guy who's ever gotten married, you know, is happy but a little bit terrified at the same time. Especially if you've been single and as single for as long as he has been his whole life. You got a little bit of terror going on, too. You're like, what the hell did I just get myself into? There's a little bit of that. And I don't see a trace of that. So people are, you know, they're wondering. They're wondering a little bit. All right. I do have to get the heck out of here. Steve Moore, an absolute pleasure hanging around here for you. Gene on Long Island, yes?
Sure.
Did he just? Yeah. Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, you made a comment last week. I wasn't able to get into you. It was very cogent. You made a comment in regards to the fear, I believe, I'm just paraphrasing, fear that that white men have in regards to speaking out truthfully about things having to do with people of color. And that fear is a very powerful thing, and it's made a difference. And it has really also been like a chain around the neck of blacks. They've allowed it to be actually I should say, the whites that are in a position to make a difference as far as a vote or speak up about truths, many times do not say anything just because they're concerned about being called racist or something of that nature having to do with racism. But I just wanted to tell you that was a very important point. One other real quick thing, people forget about, this is a sidebar, but they forget about the collusion with Cuomo, with Phil Murphy. Basically, New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York colluded against Donald Trump during COVID. It doesn't get mentioned like it should.
How did they collude?
Well, it was around the time when Trump was doing his daily briefings. He would have the military guys there, generals, whatever, and then Cuomo picked up on it and started doing his. He kind of like undercut. That's when he was getting up there every day with the the governor's jacket on.
Yeah.
And so they got together and said, basically it's like, listen, we'll work together to basically bring this guy down. Cuomo, he kicked Samaritan's Purse out of Central Park.
Yeah, I did. It's coming back to me now. Yeah, but there was something. There was a triumvirate. They had some joint appearances. You're right. I got to look into that. And thank you, Gene. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how the far left has dictated how people are supposed to talk about race, and nobody has been more cowed than, quite frankly, a lot of white people, white elites especially. But it's interesting, and we have no such reluctance. At least I don't. Right? People are people. Thank you, Gene. Ron, hello.
Hey, Greg. How are you, Greg? First of all, I want to thank you for your service. Also, I think we were in Cyprus at about the same time. Did you have a chance to go to the occupied territory?
No, I didn't do that. I stayed at the resort. It was a full indulgence luxury thing. I did not do any sightseeing. I didn't, I was swimming and relaxing, and I felt guilty. I didn't go to like one museum. I didn't feel that guilty though. Did you go there?
Okay. Yes, we did. We stayed in Paphos, and we ventured all over the place. We went to Larnaca, we went to Lefkosia, we went, here, there, and everywhere. A lot of, ancient Roman ruins, a lot of different things. A lot of, obviously, Greek Orthodoxy is the predominant religion there. Went to visit the remains, the second tomb of Lazarus. Which is kind of interesting because the first tomb is obviously when he was raised.
Oh, you mean when he died for real?
Yeah.
And do they know where he's buried?
Yeah, there's a Greek Orthodox church that's built over his tomb in Larnaca.
All right. Well, that's I did not know. I actually did look up though Cyprus in the Bible. I wanted to know, where the hell where it appeared in the Bible, and there are several references. Hey man, thank you very much. Sorry I missed you over there. Good luck in the rain, everybody, although it has subsided, but the National Weather Service says it's going to come back in about 15 minutes. Steve, I'll get to you next time. This is Greg Kelly, seen on video form, 9 p.m. weeknights, and on the radio, 12:20 to 3 p.m. An honor and a privilege. I thank you.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?